Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet podcast. Why is there a pig looking across here? Welcome. It's almost game time, so we got to do a very quick turnaround for the Detroit Lions. So we're going to do kind of a what the heck are the Detroit Lions, I guess, is kind of the question here. I think it's a fair question because I don't honestly know the answer. I've been saying things, but I don't actually know. It's just sort of as I go, I kind of notice like, oh, there's this, there's that. First of all, someone is right on friggin' cue. I think something that's fair to say that I don't think Lions fans would really argue with me about is that the 2025 Lions are not the 2024 Lions. And that's important because the 2024 Lions, at least without injury, I think we're on a warpath. I think they win the Super Bowl. I think they're one of the most dangerous and scary teams we've seen in a very long time. And so I was very nervous about them coming back and getting healthy and all that stuff. And it seems as though that was sort of I don't want to say it's a one-year thing because they could certainly ramp up or do it next year or something, but usually those types of dominant years don't last very long. And it seems like it's already kind of done. So last year they were 15-2. They lost week 2 by 4 points, and then they lost to the Buffalo Bills 42-48. They were the number one offense in football, just based on points, because I could go dig around, but just for some shorthand. Based on points, number one offense, number 7 defense, and that's with injured Aiden Hutchinson and the entire defense being decimated and everything else. I mean, just extremely impressive team. Just as a brief recap, they scored They scored 30 points in more than half of their games. More than half, most of their games. So they scored less than 20 only once. That was their week 2 loss to Tampa. They scored let's say less than 25 points just 5 times. They scored 30 points 5 times. So it's 31 against Washington, 31 against Minnesota, 31 against Minnesota again, 34 against Chicago, and 34 against Green Bay. They also scored 40 points against the 49ers, 42 against the Bills, 42 against the Seahawks, 47 against Dallas, 52 against Jacksonville, and 52 against Tennessee. Unfreaking believable how dominant that offense in particular, but that team in general really was. So far this year, they did reach the 50s once, the 40s once, and the 30s a bunch of times. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So they're still a good team, but with the season not over, they've already had 3 games where they scored under 20 points. 17 against the Chiefs, 13 against the Packers, and 9 under 10, 9 against the Eagles just week 11, not very long ago. So I've used the sort of flickering light analogy in certain places, and I think that kind of fits here. There's still glimpses and glimmers of it, but the light doesn't stay on. It's not as consistently it's not just on all the time. They also have not performed very well against good defenses. So the Packers are a top 10 defense. They scored 13. And remember, things evolve over time. At the time, the Packers defense was probably better than now. It was just super scary looking. Then week 2, they went up against the Bears. Now, yes, the Bears have a good record, but remember, if you look at things like DVOA, they are a bottom 10 team. Their defense is bottom half. And actually, if you go back and look at week 2, and granted, this maybe had something to do with Detroit a little bit, but as of week 2, Chicago had the 32nd ranked defense. That was when they scored 52. Then they scored 38 against Baltimore. That's very good, and we typically think of Baltimore as a good team. But if you remember, Baltimore, especially earlier on, I think they've improved a little bit, but earlier on, they were the worst freaking defense ever. That was when Jair was there, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is just a terrible, terrible defense. In fact, they allowed 38 to Dallas. They also allowed 41 to Buffalo in week 1, 37 to Kansas City the very next week, 44 to Houston the next week. It improved right after that. But they started the season giving up 41-17 to frickin' Cleveland because they can't score points, then 38, 37, 44. So yeah, Detroit scored 38 points, but that's kind of low compared to the average. Then they scored 34 against Cleveland. That is impressive. But then 37 against Cincinnati. Horrific defense. Kansas City is a borderline top 10 defense. They only scored 17. Tampa Bay, as of right now, is a top 10 defense. They rank 7th. They only scored 24. Minnesota's defense ranks 18th, which is they scored 24 again. Then they faced Washington, who has a bottom 10 defense. They rank 26th, and they scored 44 points. Then they played Philadelphia, currently the number 8. So again, top 10 defense. They scored 9. Then they played the Giants, who have the 5th worst defense, and they scored 34. So, I mean, Cleveland being the outlier here, there's a very clear pattern, and that is against bad defenses, they run up the score. They are the team that Packer fans want to be so bad. If it's a bad defense, they absolutely eviscerate people. However, again, outside of Cleveland, I think just about any top half defense, they have not been able to run up the score against. The hope, obviously, is that continues because the Packers' defense via DVOA is currently ranked 9th. That's well within. I mean, that's very similar to Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. And remember, Philadelphia and Tampa Bay were, if I can find it here, Philly was 9 points, Tampa was 24. So these are not, 30, 40, 50 some odd points. Now, the downside is that the Packers offense hasn't really been racking up a ton of points. And so if they creep it up to 24, that's still going to be a challenge. It's also worth noting, kind of similar to the Chicago Bears, they've got a little bit of a tougher stretch as far as defenses are concerned. Again, Green Bay is a top 10 defense. After that, they face the Rams. The Rams are the number 1 offense and the number 1 defense. Then they face Pittsburgh and Minnesota. Neither are top 10, but they're both top half. Well, Minnesota's actually 18th, but again, last time they played Minnesota, they scored 24 points, and that was in Detroit. And if you remember, they lost that game, 24-27. I'm not necessarily expecting them to lose, but it is, a little bit of a tougher road if you're only scoring 24 points at home against Minnesota. I can't expect it to be much higher than that. Pittsburgh is the 15th ranked defense. So the only bad defenses that they're going to see are Chicago, which I'm not super upset about them pummeling Chicago, assuming that they do. If they don't, also okay with that. And Dallas, who has a terrible defense. They're ranking 31st. Outside of that, it's top half with, half of those coming in at top 10. So we'll have to see. Looking at DVOA in terms of where they rank, they are the 4th ranked team via DVOA, which is ahead of the Green Bay Packers, who are 6th. But it's actually a pretty sizable gap. Green Bay is at 17.3%. After that is Kansas City at 20.4%, and then Detroit at 27.9%. So that's, a little over 10% better than where the Packers are at. They're 6th on offense and 6th on defense. Packers are 8th on offense and 9th on defense. So if you're just looking at DVOA, they have a better offense, they have a better defense, and they're at home. I haven't run the numbers yet, but I don't see a real good possibility that the Packers using DVOA are going to end up with the expected win. Speaking of, I think I won 6 of 10 this past week. I did a lot more bets, but smaller bets. So I think that's 4 weeks in a row I am up. It's a very unusual year. For the record, Detroit, 2.5-point favorites. I would say that's pretty good for Green Bay. Obviously, you'd prefer to be the favorite in the game and to be expected to win, but I mean, all things considered, with Detroit being at home, it seems as though Vegas is saying that the Lions and the Packers are pretty evenly matched. I would guess 2.5 is roughly home field advantage for Detroit. Maybe. I mean, Detroit's home field advantage is pretty massive, I would think. I know they say 3, but it's kind of an outdated number.
Someone is at the front door.
And I think it's actually generally less than that, but with Detroit, I wouldn't be surprised if it's closer to 3. I don't know. But looking at some of the statistics here, again, we talked about the points and yards, or points anyways, second on offense, 12th on defense. Actually, I don't know if we did talk about it. We talked about 2014. That's what they're at this year. In yards, they're 4th on offense, 10th on defense. Going through the rest of their offensive stats here, they are 3rd in turnovers. They are 18th in passing attempts, 14th in rushing attempts, so relatively balanced. 8th in passing yards, 2nd in passing touchdowns, 7th in net yards per attempt. They are 3rd in rush yards, 3rd in rushing touchdowns, and 2nd in yards per attempt. So this is the part that concerns me. We'll go through their team a little bit. I don't know if that's today or tomorrow we'll do that, but one of the things about their offensive line, as far as how bad it is, it's primarily the pass blocking that's a problem. The run blocking is not as good as it was last year, based on all the departures. But it's still an above average. And with Penei Sewell is he has almost a 99 run blocking grade. It's unbelievable what he has right now. His pass blocking is only like a 75 or something. But probably still one of the better run blocking teams in football. And so, again, I understand that everybody's just talking about, well, we're just going to release the hounds and we're going to get after Goff. And it's like, if I was Detroit, I wouldn't pass. It would be short passes to Gibbs, and then it would be runs with Gibbs. And that's it. Couple quick screens or slant routes to Amon-Ra, but I'm not playing with your pass rush, period. It's just not going to be a factor. And you have to stop us. Best of luck. And I wouldn't do anything else. Percentage of drives that end in a score, they rank 10th. Starting field position, they are 4th, starting at the 32. Average time per drive, 21st, so they scoot down the field pretty quick, or punt. Average plays per drive, 24th, so again, probably bigger, quicker plays. I don't know. Yards per drive, 11th. Points per drive, 5th. And if you look at the discrepancy between percentage of drives ending in a score and points scored per drive, it means that they're scoring a disproportionate amount of touchdowns as opposed to field goals. It's really the only thing I can think of to distinguish between those two things is whether it's a 3-point score or a 7-point score. Defensively, they're 11th in turnovers with 13, 15th in passing attempts, 15th in yards. This is allowed, it's defense. 27th in touchdowns, 9th in interceptions, 12th in net yards per attempt. Rushing, 14th. Yards, 11th. Touchdowns, 7th. Yards per attempt, 6th. Percent of drives ending in an offensive score, they rank 25th. However, when you go over to average points scored per drive, they're 11th. So they're one of the worst teams in football at allowing teams to drive down the field and score points. But they're almost a top 10 team in points scored per drive. Meaning, again, this is kind of a bend, don't break, where they're just allowing field goals in exchange for not allowing touchdowns. Again, it's the only thing I can conclude. They're also 4th in net yards per drive, 3rd in average number of plays per drive, 4th in average time per drive. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to kind of dig in. We'll touch a little bit. We're not going to do PFF on the roster, but I want to stay kind of zoomed out, big picture, looking at the 2024 Lions to kind of see what we're getting ourselves into. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. So there's a line here as I was going through and working on some of the research for the Detroit Lions. I just want to read this because I think it's a decent overview. The team enters Week 13 fresh off a chaotic overtime victory against the 2-9 New York Giants, a 34-27 contest that required heroic individual efforts from running back Jahmyr Gibbs and kicker Jack Bates to salvage a win from the jaws of a humiliating defeat. The game served as a microcosm of the 2025 Lions, capable of explosive brilliance, yet structurally fragile and prone to lapses that allow inferior opponents to linger. And I think a lot of this has been, I don't know exactly what Lions fans are saying, But I think a lot of this is being laid at the feet of losing the offensive and defensive coordinators. There's still, again, vestiges. It's still the same players. It's still the same scheme. But at the same time, when you're not Ben Johnson, even though we can kind of try to be Ben Johnson, you have to come up with the game plans on your own. There really isn't a playbook for that. I mean, there's a way that he kind of taught you and showed you that things are getting done, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to replicate that. That doesn't mean in this individual situation, I can just sit back and go, what would Ben Johnson do, and be able to imagine what that would be. Sometimes you can't. And then even more so than that is the play calling aspect, calling the right plays at the right time. And again, you can see that transfer from Detroit, which is still a very good team, but nowhere near the elite offensive dominance of 2024. And then again, when I go look at the Bears, yes, they're fraudulent and they're stupid and all that stuff, but the amount of times I turn that game on and I see wide receivers running wide open, you can see that sort of transfer there, where Detroit lost something and Chicago gained something. And so with Ben Johnson leaving, Dan Campbell turned the offense over to John Morton. Let me read this little snippet here. To fill the void left by Johnson, Dan Campbell turned to John Morton, a veteran coach with previous stops at the Denver Broncos and Las Vegas Raiders. The transition has been anything but seamless, while the Lions remain statistically potent in terms of raw yardage, ranking second in points per game. Entering Week 11, the aesthetic and operational efficiency of the offense have deteriorated. The shift from Johnson to Morton has introduced a distinct cultural friction within the offensive meeting rooms. Player interviews suggest a jarring change in coaching demeanor. Running back David Montgomery provided a candid assessment, noting a stark contrast between Johnson's conservative instructional style and Morton's aggressive, profane approach. Montgomery remarked that Morton is prone to cussing it up and smacking the PowerPoint board, a stylistic pivot that implies a more volatile coaching environment. While stylistic differences are not inherently negative, the on-field product suggests a disconnect. Critics and analysts have argued that Morton's game plans lack the creative wrinkles and easy buttons that define the Johnson era, leading to an offense that feels too overwhelming to operate for the players. The 2024 Lions were a rhythm-based passing team that utilized tempo and pre-snap motion to dictate terms to the defense. In 2025, the offense has become prone to extended periods of stagnation, followed by desperate reliance on explosive plays. This was painfully evident in the Week 1 loss to Green Bay, 27-13, where the offense failed to find the end zone until the game was effectively decided in garbage time. The fluidity is gone, and in its place is a unit that stutters, misfires, then relies on a superstar like Jahmyr Gibbs to break a 69-yard run to save the day. So the shift essentially is really solid players like Gibbs and Amon-Ra and Goff and everybody else that was playing at a high level, but a coach also that was putting him in a place to succeed, and it just, when that combo was just unstoppable. Now, again, and I'm not saying they're useless play callers, but it's not Ben Johnson. It's a guy that is just, I guess, okay, maybe. Let's just call him average as an offensive coordinator. That needs to be carried by players, though. It's an offense that isn't really working, but when you have the connection of Goff and Amon-Ra and Gibbs and Montgomery and some of the other guys that can make big plays in critical moments and whatnot, you can fight through and make it work. But again, it's just a different feel than 2024, where it was just unstoppable, because Ben Johnson always knew the right thing to do and when to do it and how to do it and all that stuff, and the guys that were there obviously could execute it, and that combo made them just unstoppable. On the defensive side of the ball, the departure of Aaron Glenn to become a head coach of the New York Jets necessitates an internal promotion, and Kelvin Shepard, the former linebackers coach, ascended to that defensive coordinator role. Shepard has attempted to instill a new identity, referring to his unit as the Firefighters. Oh, that's adorable. The philosophy is predicated on resilience. When the offense turns the ball over or puts the defense in a bad spot, it's the defense's job to put out the fire without complaint. That is such a terrible... That's so terrible. I'm sorry, but that is not an inspiring thing. We're the firefighters. Our job is to go fix things when our offense and our team sucks, and we just have to shut up and smile about it. Really? That's okay. That's what we'll do. While the unit ranks respectable in run defense and yards per play allowed, Shepard's tenure has been defined by a bend and then break tendency regarding explosive plays. The defense has struggled to contain high-powered passing attacks, a weakness exacerbated by personnel loss and a reliance on blitzing to manufacture pressure that the front four can no longer generate organically. Well, I will say this, and I will continue to dig into it. If that is a thing, that they're vulnerable to big plays, we may see a change in philosophy as far as how we play the Lions compared to how we played the Vikings. We will see. Continuing on now is kind of what we've already talked about, and that is Jared Goff struggling without his picture-perfect situation. Jared Goff's performance in 2025 has been a microcosm of the team's broader struggles. Without the immaculate protection and perfect play-calling sequencing of 2024, Goff's historical flaws have resurfaced with a vengeance. Goff remains an elite passer when operating from a clean pocket, completing nearly 79% of his passes with a high touchdown rate in such scenarios. However, his performance collapses under duress. Metrics indicate that when pressured, his completion percentage drops to a dismal 45.5% with 0 touchdowns and multiple interceptions. This stark split makes the health of the offensive line the single most important variable for Detroit's success. The Sunday Night Football loss to the Philadelphia Eagles was arguably the nadir of the Goff era in Detroit. Operating without safety valves and under constant harassment, Goff completed 14 of 37 passes, which is 37.8%, a career-worst mark. He looked visibly rattled, throwing 5 passes that were batted down at the line of scrimmage, including one that resulted in a critical interception by Cooper DeJean. The game exposed the blueprint for defeating Detroit. Crowd the line of scrimmage, take away the easy play-action reads, and force Goff to create outside of structure. Now, the contrast to that is the thing that is working, which is the run game, which is what I've been cautioning about, panicking about, and hopefully for nothing. Continuing, if the pass game is the source of volatility, the run game is the source of salvation. The duo of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery remain the team's undisputed strength, often carrying the offense when the passing attack stalls. Jahmyr Gibbs, the game breaker. In his third year, Gibbs has ascended to superstar status. In the recent overtime win against the Giants, Gibbs was the sole reason Detroit survived. He rushed for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a critical 69-yard score and an 11-catch performance. He functions not just as a running back, but as the team's primary offensive weapon, often serving as the bailout option when Morton's play designs fail to materialize. Like I said, the players now are kind of having to bail out the scheme a little bit. The thing that sucks for us is that their players are actually pretty good. David Montgomery serves as the complementary piece, the hammer, if you will. Complementing Gibbs, Montgomery provides the physical between the tackles yardage. However, opposing defenses have found success limiting this duo by dominating the line of scrimmage. In Week 1, the Packers held the duo to under 100 combined yards by generating tackles for a loss on 6 separate occasions. Another big focus here is the offensive line, which is formerly the bedrock of the franchise, currently in a state of emergency. The offensive retirement of All-Pro center Frank Ragnow was a massive blow to the unit's communication and interior integrity, forcing veteran Graham Glasgow to slide to center. In addition to that are some current issues with the offensive line in terms of injuries. For example, their new center, Graham Glasgow, has a knee injury, did not participate on Monday, did not participate on Tuesday. In fact, let's just go through this real quick. The injury report, it's kind of a random, weird place to start, but since we're here, let's do it. We'll talk about the Lions, since that's what we're doing right now, and we'll eventually get over to the Packers. But cornerback Terrion Arnold, who already has missed some time, is dealing with a concussion, has been limited Monday and Tuesday. Safety Kirby Joseph, very important piece of their defense, has a knee injury, did not participate in either of the 2 days. Edge rusher Josh Paschal has a back injury and did not participate on Tuesday. Wide receiver Khalif Raymond has an ankle injury, did not participate any of the 2 days. Wide receiver Isaac Tesla has a hand injury and has been limited for the 2 days of practice. They have 2 backup running backs, Sion Vaki as well as Jacob Sailors. Both of them have been limited all week. And then they have Brock Wright, the tight end with a neck injury, who has not participated all week. Now, saving the offensive line for last. I already mentioned center Graham Glasgow. Starting center, hasn't participated in practice all week. If we go from left to right, Taylor Decker, first of all, is a good offensive lineman. All right? Taylor Decker has always been pretty solid, but he is currently 31 years old and is playing probably the worst of his career, maybe 2017, which he was injured that year. I would say it's the worst of his career. He's currently has a 62 run blocking grade, which is his lowest since 2018, and a 71 pass blocking grade, which is the lowest of his entire career. He currently has a shoulder injury and has been limited all week. Their starting left guard is Christian Mahogany, the guy that we talked about already, is maybe he's going to be really, really good. Turns out, maybe not so much. He is currently on IR. In his place is a guy by the name of Coyote Awasika. He is a 2021 UDFA, originally from Philadelphia, has been with Detroit for 40 years, out of Buffalo. He right now has a 67 run blocking grade and a 47 pass blocking grade. He has started the last 3 weeks, weeks 10, 11, 12. His pass blocking grades have been 55, 45, and 61. He's given up 8 pressures, including 5 hurries, 1 hit, and 2 sacks in those 3 weeks. Again, the starting center is Graham Glasgow, who has not practiced all week. He currently has a 60 pass blocking, roughly 60 pass blocking, 60 run blocking across the season. He is as perfectly average, mediocre, I guess you could say, as they come. I can't find any indication one way or another whether he's expected to play, but his backup, I believe, based on snap counts, which it's pretty close either way. There's only 3 different people have played center. 3 snaps to Kingsley Eguakun, 9 to Michael Nisi, and 14 to Tristan Colin, I guess is how you say his name. So I don't know specifically if it's going to be Nisi or Colin, whatever. But this Colin fella is kind of a historically 65s across the board kind of guy, but currently has a 13 pass blocking grade. Again, very small sample size, but it's been a little rough. At the right guard spot, they now have Tate Radledge there, who is a 2025 second-round pick, so he's a rookie this year. He also has been really bad. The 2 young guys at guard are a disaster. He has a 47 pass blocking grade and a 73 run blocking. Again, the biggest problem here is that everybody's kind of at least okay as a run blocker, but appallingly bad pass blocker. Kind of like if Sean Ryan was a little bit more consistently bad and played both of our guard spots, that's what they're dealing with. He also, by the way, has a knee injury and has been limited all week. And then finally is Penei Sewell, 98.2 run blocking grade, historically good run blocker this year. Pass blocking, though, just a 77, which is more good than great, which has always been his thing. I mean, he's actually got a higher pass blocking grade than last year, which was a 75.4. He's fine. I mean, he's not a bad pass blocker, but I think we kind of just call Penei Sewell an elite tackle, and it's more of a historically elite run blocking tackle, a good tackle in terms of pass blocking. His highest ever pass blocking grade for a season was a 79. And if you're wondering, yes, he's also on the injury report with an ankle injury and has been limited all week. So their left tackle is on the injury report and has been limited all week. Their left guard is on IR. Their center hasn't practiced all week because of a knee injury. Their rookie right guard has been limited all week because of a knee injury. And their right tackle has been limited all week with an ankle injury. Of the 4 remaining starters, every single one of them is on the injury report. So this becomes the issue. But again, it's one of those things where, if you flip it to one side, it is a complete unmitigated disaster. You flip it the other way, it's actually not terrible. Leaving health aside for a second, let's just assume all these guys suit up. If we go left to right and look at the pass blocking grades, it's 71, 46, let's call it 60, 46, and 77. So the 2 tackles are good, not great. The 2 guards are putrid, And the center, I'm not entirely sure. They're essentially running out their third center when you consider that their starting center retired. And then they pushed out Graham Glasgow, who is really nowhere near as good as the 2024 center. And again, I don't know how much better the third guy would be if he plays. But either way, let's just call it a 60. But if we look at the run blocking, 62, 67, 70, 73, 98. There's nothing bad. Again, it's still not as good as it was last year. But leaving health aside, this is still a pretty potent run-blocking offensive line. Now, there's another injury worth mentioning. This just cropped up recently, Sam Laporta. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Sam Laporta pops up on the injury report. Hey, he's got, I think, a back injury. That's crazy. Then all of a sudden, hey, Sam Laporta is going to go to IR, meaning he's not going to play the Packers on Thanksgiving. That's crazy. Oh, actually, he needs surgery. He's done for the year. Sam Laporta, by the way, had an 82 overall grade, 83 receiving grade, 90 drop grade because he had 0 drops. He was every bit as good, you could argue better, than Tucker Kraft. You know, it's actually hilarious when I look at it, how incredibly similar they were, except for the part that Tucker Kraft played one less game. But Tucker Kraft and Sam Laporta, both 2023 tight ends, second round and third round guys. Both of them go out on IR with season-ending injuries a week apart from each other, apparently. The receiving grade for Tucker Kraft was an 82.9. For Sam Laporta, it was an 83.2. Almost identical. What's even crazier, Tucker Kraft ended his season with 489 yards. Sam Laporta ended his season with 489 yards. Again, it's not hard to make the case that Tucker Kraft was a little better. Sam Laporta did grade higher, but more yards in less games and 6 touchdowns compared to 3. I'll just go ahead and take Tucker. Thank you very much. But for the sake of translation, Sam Laporta equals Tucker Kraft, and they just lost him. He was their number 3 receiver in terms of yards. He was tied for third in touchdowns. He was third in terms of yards per reception, third highest as far as overall grade and receiving grade for the team. So in every way, he's their number 3 guy. It's a pretty big loss, especially when you look at the drop-off in tight end. Yes, we can relate, but they have Brock Wright, who has a 52 grade, 54 receiving grade. So that is the situation on offense. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back, take a look at their defense, and then we'll get out of here. All right, taking a look at the Detroit Lions defense. Obviously, the main guy to keep an eye on here is Mr. Aiden Hutchinson. Played every game this season coming back from his injury last year. He's got 7.5 official sacks, 10 PFF sacks, and he has 68 pressures on 404 attempts. He's at 16.8%, which is elite. The issue, however, has been the secondary, specifically the cornerbacks. Despite Hutchinson's elite pressure rate, the Lions' secondary has emerged as the team's primary Achilles heel in 2025. The disconnect between the front four's pressure and the back end's coverage consistency is alarming. The Lions rank poorly in allowed explosive plays, passes of 20-plus yards. In a recent win against the Giants, they surrendered 10 explosive plays and 366 passing yards to Jameis Winston, proving that even with Hutchinson disrupting the pocket, the secondary struggles to maintain coverage integrity downfield. While Hutchinson reduces the need to blitz, Shepard still utilizes aggressive firefighter pressure to manufacture turnovers. When the blitzes do not get home instantly, the secondary is left in vulnerable man-to-man situations, and they are frequently losing. Man, that is just playing right into our freaking hands if you go doing that nonsense. Granted, I don't think we can hold up, but it's not going to take long for guys like Christian Watson or Golden or whoever, probably just say Watson, to get a step on a guy. Second-year corner, Terrion Arnold, has struggled with consistency and is currently in concussion protocol. The unit relies heavily on safety Kirby Joseph for turnovers, but opposing cornerbacks are finding success targeting the corners before Hutchinson can finish the sack. Remember, so first of all, Terrion Arnold right now, dang it, pushing the wrong stupid frickin' buttons. I just wanted to click the tab, and I clicked the X on the tab. Just had to do it. In terms of guys that actually play, he is the second lowest graded player on the entire team. So Terrion Arnold has been a massive, massive failure of a draft pick. I know it's frustrating when the Packers draft picks, especially first-round picks, don't pan out. But this is a first-year guy who came in with a ton of hype. By the way, this is the second time, the other time being, I'm forgetting his name, but they picked him top 10, top 5-ish, and he's basically out of the league already. This is a pick number 24 overall. He has a 52.7 PFF grade, 54 coverage grade. If there is a bright spot, it's in run defense. The Lions rank 11th in the NFL in rushing yards allowed per game and 8th in yards per play. Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell have performed well in gap integrity. Jack Campbell is the other guy that is elite. It's really only because Aiden Hutchinson plays a much more premier position, but Jack Campbell is grading out almost exactly the same as Aiden Hutchinson. 90.7 for Hutchinson, 90.0 for Jack Campbell. He has a 94 run defense grade. Ridiculous. 82 tackling grade, 77 pass rush grade, 64.8 in coverage, which is above average. But clearly his strength is as a run defender, and he is really freaking good at it. And I find this interesting, too, because as it says here, this strength plays into Green Bay's hands if the Packers choose to abandon the run and attack the secondary through the air, essentially bypassing Detroit's defensive strength. The more I think about it, the more it seems to make sense. We want Detroit to pass. Detroit wants to run. One way to get them to pass is to stop the run. That's the number one way. The other, though, is to start torching them through the air. If we can turn this into a shootout and get down the field and start scoring points, we got to move fast, and we got to get down the field, and we got to score points. You get up by 10 points, 13 points, whatever, they don't have a choice anymore. Now it's passing time. The issue with that, obviously, is we're going to have to try to get our offensive line to hold up, and I don't think it's going to, especially if they not only have Hutchinson, but are going to bring additional blitzing. But, man, I feel like you got to try, At least feel it out. Continuing on, the Week 13 matchup is critical. A Packers win would widen the gap in the NFC North and potentially push Detroit further down the wild card race. The context of the game is defined by Green Bay's ascending trajectory and Detroit's desperate attempt to stabilize. The most significant variable in this matchup is the Green Bay Packers defense. In a blockbuster move that shifted the balance of power in the NFC North, the Packers acquired star pass rusher Micah Parsons. Parsons has paired with Rashawn Gary to form a devastating edge duo. In Week 12, Parsons recorded his 10th sack of the season, helping to hold the Minnesota Vikings to just 6 points. This is a code red situation for Detroit. With left tackle Taylor Decker and right tackle Penei Sewell both compromised with their injuries, and center Graham Glasgow potentially out, the Packers' defensive front has a massive advantage. If Parsons and Gary can isolate Detroit's backup linemen, such as Coyote Awasika, as we talked about, or injured starters, Jared Goff will be under duress immediately. Looking back at Week 1, the Packers defeated the Lions 27-13 at Lambeau Field, providing a blueprint for how to dismantle this iteration of Detroit. They won by dominating the trenches. They generated 4 sacks on Goff and limited the Gibbs-Montgomery tandem to under 3 yards per carry. In that game, Jordan Love dissected the Lions by attacking the middle of the field and avoiding sacks. The Lions' offense did not score a touchdown until the game was out of reach. Jordan Love has had a volatile but productive season. In Week 1, he posted a 128.6 passer rating against Detroit. He's currently dealing with a shoulder injury, but was full participant in practice, signaling he'll be 100% for the game. Jared Goff, on the other hand, is trending in the wrong direction. His passer rating under pressure is a major liability. Against a defense that ranks 4th in total defense and 5th in scoring defense, Goff must play a mistake-free game, something he failed to do in Week 11 against Philadelphia. Detroit's path to victory: establish the run early, max protection, keep your tight ends in, and home field advantage / Ford field noise. Green Bay blueprint: A-gap pressure. With Graham Glasgow injured and Frank Ragnow retired, the center of the Lions' line is soft. Green Bay should stunt their pass rushers inside to flush Goff from the pocket, or just send frickin' Micah Parsons straight up the middle. Deep shots, number 2. Number 3, force 3rd and long. The Lions' third down conversion rate has dropped to 36%. They are not efficient at sustaining drives. If Green Bay wins first down, Detroit struggles to recover. That's double against the Packers. So there you go. All right. Finally, I want to look at the Green Bay Packers injury report. Carl Brooks hasn't practiced all week. Javon Bullard has been limited all week with an ankle injury. Edgerrin Cooper, limited all week with a foot and shoulder injury. Romeo Dobbs, full participant. Matthew Golden, limited. He has a wrist injury now. Nate Hobbs has been limited with a knee injury. Josh Jacobs, limited with a knee injury. Jordan Love, full participant. Keyshawn Nixon, limited. Neck injury. Jaden Reed, limited foot/shoulder. They're still playing coy with the whole Jaden Reed might play thing. Really don't think he's going to, but we'll see. Zach Tom, limited back injury. Lucas Van Ness has not participated all week, so that's great news. I love that we pushed him out there against the Vikings, and now he's apparently had a setback. That or they're just completely resting him. I don't know, but that's freaking annoying. Because I have to assume if we didn't play him, he would be fine right now. Quay Walker, limited with a neck injury. Christian Watson, full participant. Dontavian Wicks, limited calf injury. Savion Williams has not participated in practice this week. Alrighty, there you go. I'm going to get out of here. Y'all have a good rest of your night. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.